Welcome to the first video of Section 3 of Rapid Flask. In the last section, we built a weather app that pulled weather data for London from the Open Weather API and displayed this data to the user. Upon completing this video, we will have extended this app to allow the user to choose which city to view a weather forecast for. We'll be looking at 3 different ways to achieve this. The first is by passing the city name as a variable part of the URL. The second is by using a URL get parameter, and the third is by building a basic HTML form and passing the city name to the server through this as a post request. As we remember from Section 1, dynamic parameters can be added to our Flask routes very easily. We simply add the parameter using angle brackets in the root and add matching parameters to the associated function. If we take a look at the code, we can see we've added a search city parameter to the root decorator and a search city parameter to the index function. We've actually got 2 decorators for our index function, so if no city is passed in by the user, we'll fall back to our default of London. That is, URLs matching either of the decorators will result in our index function being called. Finally, we've updated the call to the getWeather function, passing in the dynamic city name instead of the hard-coded London string. We also pass in the city and country names to our template. Note that we get the city name from the data returned by the API, as it returns what deems it to be the closest result to our search. Let's take a look at the results. If we visit the site as usual on localhost 5000, we'll still see the data for London. But now we can add a city name to our URL after a slash. Let's take a look at the weather for New York. The API is generally enough to easily deal with duplicate names. For example, if we go to the URL /Dover, we get the American Dover. If we navigate instead to /Dover UK, we get the Dover in the United Kingdom. Great, but it's not very user-friendly, and having too many sub-URLs can get messy. Let's take a look at how Flask handles get parameters. These are specified and separated using question marks in the URL, and are automatically collected into a Flask variable at request.args. Let's instead get our city name using this method. In the updated code, we have added an import for the request context from Flask. We'll be using this to easily parse the get parameters. We've also removed the root decorators and the function parameters, and added the line needed to get the city name from the URL get parameter. Let's see how this works. If we now visit localhost 5000 search city equals New York, we again see the weather for New York. This is a more intuitive way to pass dynamic arguments. Sub-URLs are best used for static subpages of a web app. But it is still lacking in user-friendliness. We'll sort that out in the next video. In this video, we took a look at 2 ways to pass the city name from the client to the server, and we can now get a weather forecast for any city in the world. In the next video, we'll be adding a user-friendly input to pass this information, and we'll also take a look at how to do post requests in Flask. See you then.